I love it. I love it. Chill bump time. Great cutscene. Great pause. 2. I repeat, 2 scarabs. Best playable ending to a video game ever. I absolutely love it. I've got him in this corner and oh, yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's real fair. Invincible. Yeah. Oh, great. Now I'm stuck. This is just wonderful. Oh, and of course.
The will of the gods.
Here we go. Oh, come on! I hate Halo 3. So, the question is, do I love or hate Mission 9 Halo? Hello everybody, this is JP3 here bringing you the final entry in our Halo 3 Legendary Love or Hate playthrough. We are on mission number 9, Halo. Now Halo is a strange level to try to evaluate, at least for me. I feel that Halo, like the title says, is an imperfect level containing a perfect ending. And so I like to think of this level as kind of split into 3 different sections. The first section is the large amount of the combat, the flood battle, and so forth. The second section is the cutscene and the boss battle, and then the final section is the glorious Warthog run. So in the first section, I feel like that because of the way it plays out, when you play this level, it's best not to take it too seriously. And when I say that, I mean I wouldn't try for a deathless run given the way the first part of this level plays out. I wouldn't necessarily make that a goal the way that I did in order to make this video. It's a little bit trolly. You can come across 3 brutes carrying brute shots and have 2 shielded elites running at you with plasma rifles, all firing at you at once. Or you can have brutes with spikers and a handful of human combat forms hanging out over there, peppering you a little bit here and there with their assault rifles or SMGs. And obviously there's going to be a lot of variance in how those encounters play out based upon which species you get and what weapons they're carrying. And so I found that the best way to approach this is not to necessarily have some elaborate plan, but instead to improvise, have fun, enjoy yourself, because it is a fun flood battle if you look at it from that perspective of, it can get trolly, there can be some things that occur that might frustrate you if you're going for Deathless, so just don't do it. Just have yourself a blast with the final level here in this campaign. So as you can see here, the strategy, as based on the weapons I have, has become to headshot, unshielded, flood combat forms from afar, and then I have the rocket launcher in my back pocket for any nasty business that we might encounter later on. This guy somehow dodges 2 melee attacks, and here again we've got this near super shield guy who's able to take 3 attacks actually. I don't think he dodged the very first one. And he's right in our face. Now this might be a great time to pull out the rocket launcher and shoot it into that pile, or it could be a terrible time to do it if a lot of these elite combat forms decide to dodge it, which they tend to like to do. They like to play more like, I would say, elites than they do like Flood. Notice how we got a guy that dodged it there at the last minute, doing some sort of crazy jump off of that rock that didn't make any sense. But I'm not sure where he went to. I think he might have bashed himself into the floor to, kill himself, like I showed you in Cortana, and I believe maybe in Floodgate a couple of times. So notice how here again, I'm not again with any kind of specific sort of plan at all. It's just finding the guys who need to be killed and killing them the best way I know how, given the weapons I have available to me. In a little bit, I'm going to pick up a fuel rod that's right over there, and start going to work with it. And there's no need to break up these bodies at all. There's no infection forms in the area except for what may come out of a flood body, and again, it's negligible enough that I wouldn't worry about it. There's another fuel rod that's kind of behind me now, but when you initially walk up, it's up on that hill a little bit. I'll run it over, I believe, accidentally in a little bit. I say accidentally meaning that I didn't intend to run it over, but I will be able to take its ammo. And if I'm wrong about that, it's because ultimately I believe in this playthrough I decided to go with the brute shot. as my main weapon. Notice here I'm not being overly surgical with it, and the fuel rod's main weakness in these flood encounters is that it cannot take down shielded elites nearly as effectively as common sense would suggest you should be able to.
Check the other side.
The brute shot can't do that either, but I can be much more surgical with the brute shot in my experience. And again, keeping the rocket launcher in my back pocket for any nastiness. And as you notice back there, the rockets that we ran over earlier are ones that actually has 8 rockets total in that rocket. So it is, or 6 or 8, I can't remember for sure. So you can be a little more liberal than I was with the rocket launcher as a result. There's also rocket launcher behind us that I'm going to go ahead and go get now. That has 2 rockets in it. So big difference there in those 2 drops, as you would imagine. I mean, if you can do the math on it and all. I guess you don't have to imagine it all that much. I mean, there's 6 or 8, or there's 2. So yeah, I think I noticed a pattern maybe early on or midway through that maybe we were going to have a lot of brute shot drops, and so I decided to again ditch that fuel rod as a result of that. But and I of course should mention the brute shot is a much better melee weapon than the fuel rod ever will be. So I believe it does 2 or maybe even 3 times the normal damage that you would be able to inflict. And we do get a little more surgical with it as we move through the first parts of this level. Interestingly enough, that guy had a shotgun, so I wasn't quite as risk averse as I probably should have been given what he was carrying there. He can one-shot you with that up close. Heck, even it seems like sometimes at medium range, just like they could in Halo 1 and Halo 2. Now this is probably the nastiest drop that you'll see before the final battle with the Flood here. I missed both of those rockets, so trying to escape more so than anything else. That was the bigger priority there, and as you can see, it cost me some kills there. But I think at the same time, either they're all kind of waiting up there, or Arby may be taking care of them pretty darn well right now. Oh, God. I tell you, I'm not really sure about... I'm not sure why we had these elites with these shields. It really makes combat with the Flood a very, very different thing in Halo 3. Because of their existence alone, it changes everything about how I play these encounters as a result of their presence. So once we're done with those waves, we're going to see a couple of different pure forms come out in front of us here. And then at some point, and we're also going to have, I should say, we're also going to have an elite with a shield over here that's usually trying to make trouble. Notice how that just trampolined him, just kind of bounced him across. Yeah, the rocket launcher, that's exactly what it did. But at some point here, we're going to start getting combat forms coming from behind us, so we need to be very careful of that. Here they come. And again, mostly it looks like here, elites with shields, and so we're caught off guard because of how difficult they are to beat. There we put a rocket right in the middle of some pure forms, did not kill either of them. We get more elites with shields, so again, we're not really fighting the Flood in the traditional sense. In this particular section, we're getting mostly pure forms and mostly elites with shields, and their shields are considerably more powerful than the ones we saw in Halo 2. So we're going to have to switch to plasma rifles, given what we just saw there. Now, odds are the next couple of drops will be, regular old Flood that you can headshot or bash with the brute shot or shoot with the brute shot effectively. And that tends to be the way it goes. So again, that's why I say I wouldn't come up with a plan in terms of which weapons you're going to use. You never quite know what you're going to get. Like I said, at that initial part, I'm used to seeing an elite, but that's not always going to be the case that you see that many elites with shields. And we ditched the rocket launcher because, again, it's not really doing us any good either. Not at this juncture, not anymore. So we got a lot of enemies that jump down there. They don't always jump straight down there. Sometimes they may jump where you just saw that brute fall, but then you'll see so it kind of is, depends again on RNG whether the rush is going to come from above or below, which is going to be more predominant there. So just, I guess, watch out for both. Notice here I finally got a pretty decent weapon set here because we're going to see, it looks like, again, we're seeing a lot of elite combat forms with shields. And this is, I would say, in this level more so than Cortana, much less the Covenant and Floodgate. You're seeing a lot. You're seeing the hardest flood you're going to get at this point. You're going to see a lot more of those super flood that I talked about that seem to be almost invulnerable to damage, especially once they're almost dead. They seem to want to try to run for a wall to bash themselves into and have the little infection form come out. So I guess that mechanic was kind of the reason why we see these super flood. I didn't really realize that until I was actually doing the playthrough here. And notice again, we get a huge spawn of elites with shields, which again are just much less fun to fight, much more limiting in your strategy. You have to essentially go with plasma weapons against them. Brute shot doesn't work. Fuel rod doesn't work. Rocket launcher's just going to bounce them around. You have to go with the dual-wielding plasma rifle combo here against them. But now here we've got some pure forms that have set up. We have absolutely no grenades, so I just, what the heck? I pick up a sentinel beam, which is pretty darn special against these pure forms. If you didn't know that prior. Finally, some non-elite flood forms, and they go down fairly fast as a result. But notice how, again, we're doing this constant kind of dance of, seeing enemies come from in front of us based on the path we're taking and behind us, trying to kind of sandwich us in between. So, as we make it up here, just be, I guess, mindful of how that's typically going to play out. Always kind of be watching your back, and of course, be careful because Sergeant Johnson can actually kill you with his Spartan laser blasts. So I'm not really sure why I didn't kind of quickly pull out the brute shot, other than I think I had my mind really fixed on getting these auto turrets set up. And if you notice how I set them up, I'm not going to say that's the absolutely perfect setup or perfect way to do it, but it tends to work well for me to keep them out front. That way, if the flood actually aggro against them, they're kind of away from the back, which is where I'll be parked a lot of the time. And, I mean, you do tend to get a lot of shielded elites, but I think in this playthrough, I was really shocked at just how many we were getting constantly throughout this battle. You do tend to see, a few more brutes than what it seemed like I was getting. And here's another super flood, unmarked, and, can take more damage than any other human combat form could ever imagine taking. Here we've got him jumping at us. See, that one went down at a normal rate. We've got a brute finally, and looks like he's gonna bash himself against the wall. Got a couple of pure forms here, and because we kind of weakened them with the plasma rifles, we were able to get a grenade and a double kill there. So that was kind of nice. Now, at some point, whenever you hear Gravemind say, "I've commanded fleets of thousands," this is obviously a hairy part because I'm dealing with elites that are, all three of them look to be super flooded, because they were all kind of running in that headlong fashion, no longer trying to damage me, but trying to run into a wall. But it distracted me nonetheless from, I believe, a ranged form that was wearing me down pretty fast, so I had to jump down here. And this really isn't frustrating until you start doing stupid things like trying to play it deathlessly on legendary difficulty. So I just, forget I had the brute shot there and was no longer dealing with the elite combat forms and was able to take them out a little bit faster, but not as fast as I should have. So as you notice here in this final battle, even if you're down here, you're not necessarily protected. There's going to be a rocket launcher guy and or fuel rod guy. We're going to see the fuel rod guy like right now. He shoots it right at us as soon as we show up, Halo Combat Evolved style. And we've got this guy hopping around us and trolling us, but I think that's it.
Open up! Ghost is clear.
Not for long. I'm tracking additional dispersal pods. They'll be hitting any minute.
Chief, Arbiter, let's move!
So, the weapons you take in here are ones that you will not be able to bring out without some major exploits exploit strategies used, which I'm not going to go into now because we're not going to fool with that at all. It's really not important. Once you come out of the cutscene, you will have an assault rifle if you are the Master Chief, and at some point, you and or the Arbiter will kill one of the elite combat forms that are right here to attack you. Take one of their plasma rifles and have that as your secondary or your primary, depending on which weapon you like the most against what you're going to be facing. I would strongly advise that you stick with the dual-wielding plasma rifles because of the Sentinels and Elites you'll be facing. The assault rifle is pretty much useless against shielded combat forms, especially if they have a weapon. Now, in this battle here, if you noticed, we did pick up a bubble shield that was that was available to us there at the final battle. If you get in trouble here, then just throw down the bubble shield. He cannot shoot through it. He can push you through it with that force beam or force gravity thing, not really a beam, but he cannot shoot you through it. Otherwise, if he goes high, then duck. If he goes low, then jump. And you can usually get off one shot while he's still down there if you're quick enough on the draw there, or quick enough to pick up the Spartan laser at least. One more, I believe it is, and he is dead. Now, I want to go ahead and apologize in advance. I did go ahead and skip this cutscene. It is by far one of the best and most touching in the history of Halo, but I've generally, as a rule, been skipping cutscenes to focus on the gameplay for Legendary difficulty guides, so I apologize again. But I didn't want to not skip this one, and people ask, well, why didn't I play that one or this one before in some other one of the missions that we've played in any one of the campaigns? But we will get the final cutscene. I always, I believe at this point, I've always went with the final cutscene of the game and had it recorded. So anyway, I stick behind the Arbiter because again, very difficult to take these guys down without a plasma weapon. Let the Arbiter do his thing, and once I'm able to get dual-wielding plasma rifles, then I can be a lot more aggressive here. Now, one thing that I didn't mention before that on Legendary difficulty is almost never a concern is that if those two auto turrets you set up, you want to definitely make sure that those things are down before you go into the cutscene, because if you don't, they will turn on you, and they have the same extremely high DPS as those Sentinels. By the way, be very, very careful with the Sentinels. Do not rush into battle with the Sentinels. They will destroy you in as fast as anything in the Halo franchise can destroy you if they get that beam on you. They are extremely overpowered in this game against you, but are much easier to kill in this game than they were. And of course, normally those guys are dead, but it appears they survived the battle with the Sentinels, and so I definitely dropped my guard there and could have died a very embarrassing death, a place that I don't remember the last time I died, which was from Flood shooting you from up there, but fortunately we did not. So as you notice, they're coming out of that door. There was those two Sentinel spawns. You want to be definitely very careful and very wary of those. Same thing here. Very wary of these Sentinel spawns. Make sure that they are aggroed against either the Arbiter or, more hopefully, the elite combat forms that you'll see in a little bit. I believe there's 2 or 3 Sentinels at the most. Once they're down, then these guys you take out just like you would any other, I guess, elite combat forms that you've came across thus far with shields. You just keep working them with the plasma rifle. Now, I picked up a sentinel beam just in case, because anything's better than the assault rifle against shielded enemies here. But I did want to point out an observation that I believe to be almost 100% accurate. None of these guys here, they're all shielded, but none of them are super Flood. None of them are going to take a whole lot of damage and then, try to go run into a wall. At least not in my experience. So, at least not in my memory. So, those guys should be, I guess, your normally difficult shielded elites and not anything more special or unique. So, these guys here, you just want to keep your distance, of course, because of how, much more powerful taking these guys on when they all try to jump at you, the little infection guys, the popcorn fellas. You just want to be very careful and very wary of, them causing you damage, much less the carrier forms exploding. One last little wave here, and from this point forward, I'm going to be quiet. I hope you enjoy this as much as I do.
Come on, Spartan, go, go, go!
Just a quick aside as we're entering this tunnel here, I do hit all the jumps, or at least as many as I can because of the cinematic value, but ultimately it's probably wise to stay on the ground as much as possible.
shot.
70%. Charged. Hang on! Chief! If we don't make it,
We'll make it.
it's been an honor serving with you, John.
All right, ladies and gents, that is it. That is the end of Halo and the end of our Halo 3 Love or Hate Legendary playthrough. I could never hate this level, no matter how frustrating it can be trying to run it deathless and feel that glory and honor with all those trolly moments at the first of this level. It still has such a gargantuan place in my heart. Well, I'd like to hear what you think about this level and maybe about Halo 3 as a whole in the comments section. In reflecting on this, I do believe I've been a little bit harsh at times on this campaign, or maybe on some of the levels. In all reality, as frustrating as it was at times, I had a blast going back through this thing. And if you haven't already, please hit that like, that thumbs up button. If you haven't already, subscribe. And if you haven't already, and this is probably more important than any of the other things, hit the notifications bell. That way you'll know when new content is released on this channel. As for now, this is JP3 signing out. Have you a wonderful, wonderful day, and thank you very, very, very much for watching. It means everything to me. Goodbye.